button. There we go. All right, so good morning, everyone. My name is Sarah Sarelson, and I am the Executive Director of the Wyoming Children's Trust Fund and Prevent Child Abuse Wyoming. I'm very excited for the collaboration that we have this morning to share with you. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen, and we are going to hand it over to our first presenter this morning. We have three presenters who are joining us. So Matt Swift is joining us, Tanya Plum, and then Angie Dorsch, and they will be able to introduce themselves and tell you about what it is that they do, but I'll go ahead and hand the microphone over to Matt to get us started this morning.
Good morning. My name is Matt Swift. I'm the Wyoming State Law Library, and I'm going to give you guys kind of a brief overview, introduction to what we do here. I have been employed here for about 12 years, and I've been the state librarian for 7. Previously, I worked at the Laramie County Library for about 8 years. And just a quick little history of our library. This collection predates statehood, and it was originally part of the Wyoming State Library. The law library collection became its own division within the state library in the 50s. And then in the early 80s, we separated it completely from the state library, and we're now under the administration of the Wyoming Supreme Court. Some of the basics of our library, we're located in the lower floor of the Wyoming Supreme Court building. We're open Monday from 8 to 4:45. We're open to the public. There's no appointment needed. We serve the Wyoming judiciary and the Supreme Court staff, Wyoming state employees, Wyoming state bar members and attorneys, and of course the public. Sorry about that. Should have turned that off. I apologize. We are part of the WILD Consortium, and what that means is that we share a catalog with the majority of the states in Wyoming. A lot of the smaller branches and smaller libraries here in the state couldn't afford to maintain and purchase their own catalog, so the state library does that for them and for us, and it's a really good beneficial relationship. And what that means for our patrons is that if you have a card from your local county library, we'll honor it here. We don't make our own library cards for the public, and that would allow you to check out items from our print collection. Now, understanding that not all of our items are circulated. Some good resources that we have would be the Supreme Court website. There are Supreme Court opinions dating back to 2006 on our website. There's the public docket. You can see court rules. There's a calendar so you can see when arguments are scheduled. We do a live broadcast for the oral arguments. It's not archived, but you can listen to it while they're going on. And then there's information for the district, circuit, and chancery courts at the Supreme Court website. The law library website, of course, we have our catalog, and it will function just like the catalogs you may be used to if you're a user of your local county libraries. It'll look different, but it operates the same. There are links to Wyoming legal materials that would include the current version of the statutes, administrative codes, regulations, city codes. Our public services policy is on the website, and contact information. Our collection, we have primary law, obviously, which is Wyoming statutes, session laws, legislative materials. We have federal materials, and then we have a small section of print treatises, which are books about the law, and they're on various subjects, and that also includes legal encyclopedias. We are working on bulking up or making a better collection of materials for self-represented litigants. We have a special section set aside in the library. We're currently building upon that, so that'll help people that are doing their own legal research. We also have free access to Westlaw. Westlaw is a real robust legal database. It sees quite a bit of use. We have 2 terminals available at any time, and people are welcome to come in and do their research there. We, as a library, you know, our primary thing is we help people locate materials so they can do their own research. We don't necessarily do the research. We find and help you find what you need so you can do your research. We do provide some basic instruction on how to use the materials or how to use Westlaw if somebody comes and needs to do that. And for people that aren't in Cheyenne, if they know what they need, if they need a statute from a certain year or maybe a section out of a treatise, you know, I'm happy to scan those things and email them to people throughout the state. What we don't do is we don't give legal advice. We don't do interpretation. You know, like I said, as a library, we're really focused on helping people locate materials. In addition to that, we have a judicial learning center located here in the library, and that was built in 2016. And there is a short movie about the rule of law, and there's interactive exhibits. The content is geared towards 5th, 6th graders, but there's plenty of information for adults. We schedule visits for mostly school groups throughout the state. And we also work with the Wyoming Legislative Service Office and the museum, particularly during legislature. You know, 5th grade students from all over the state will come in, and sometimes there'll be 50, 60 of them, and they will do a whole day here at the Capitol complex, and we participate in that with the museum and Capitol. It's really an excellent educational experience for you know, young students. And that's kind of what I do here, what we do here. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to take them, or if you want to tell them with the presentation, that would be fine also.
Great. Does anybody have any questions right now, or feel free to also stick them in the chat box, or you can hold them until the end. So we'll pause and see if anybody wants to come off of mute this morning. All right, thanks so much for that great information, Matt. And we're going to next go to Tanya.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tanya Plum. I am the director of the George W. Hopper Law Library at the University of Wyoming College of Law. And bear with me just a moment. I'm going to put some slides up. All right. Hopefully at this point, everyone can see a picture of what the George W. Hopper Law Library and the College of Law will look like and the fall semester. So we are lucky that we have a law school in the state of Wyoming, because whenever you have a law school, a public law school, you have access to a public law library as well. And I want to remind folks that, you know, sometimes it can be intimidating to come into some public spaces, and particularly maybe for some of the people that you all work with in your daily life. But we strive to be a very open building and a place that's open to all. You might find yourself at UW maybe for a basketball game, a football game. I've included a map here. We are just to the west of the Arena Auditorium, or the Dome, the basketball stadium. And there's parking right in front of our building. It's metered during the week. And then on weekends, it's free. It's a little tricky to get in on basketball or football games. They require special permits for that. But we are a public law library. I'm currently, pardon the construction behind me, I'm currently operating out of Hill Hall dorm room number 412. If anybody is familiar with the dorms, that's where we were temporarily displaced until the new College of Law is available. So I'd like to talk a little bit about what we offer at our law library. We have 4 law librarians, each with different levels of expertise. We serve the College of Law students. We all teach some form to law students, either first-year legal research, getting them used to how to do research, and then we teach advanced legal research to prepare them to practice. I say this just to let you know that anybody you send our way is going to be well taken care of. We're going to walk them through the steps of how to do legal research should they want to undertake that process themselves. What I expect many of you will be in a position to do is to refer either for research help or for this idea of, okay, this person doesn't have the capacity or the interest in doing the research themselves. They perhaps, need more of a legal advice or referral for legal assistance. So that's how I'm kind of structuring my talk today. In terms of research help, we do a lot of the same things that Matt does there at the State Law Library in Cheyenne. We are open to the public. Our hours are posted. We'll be open to the public in the fall, I should say. Our hours are posted on our website, and it's usually Monday through Friday, 8 to 6, and then we have some limited weekend hours. Research support. This could be in person. It could be by phone, by email. Excuse me. By phone, by email. There are some things that we can do if you're in person that you might not be able to do, or the folks that you're sending our way might not be able to do, which is access some databases. And I'll talk about those in a minute. But we do, if there's a book, my colleague Tracy is on the line, and she's developing a specific self-help kind of section within the law library that we can check out. And these are what we call NOLO books. These aren't written for law students. They're written in what I'll call normal English to kind of walk you through everyday kind of situations, family law, if somebody passes away, what happens to their property, those kinds of things. Landlord-tenant issues, I think, are really common in the state of Wyoming. And so we're developing a print collection that we can either make photocopies for. Librarians always like copyright laws, so we can't copy the whole book, but we could copy a chapter to still be within fair use and scan that and email that for free. Our document delivery is free, as long as we're the 50 pages or less. If somebody did want to check out a book, we would mail that book, making sure you have a library card and are registered in our system. We'll mail that book. We just ask for along with that book, we would send an invoice to recoup costs for shipping, and then we would ask the folks to mail it back, recognizing that a lot of you are, throughout the state of Wyoming and might not find your way to our law library. Finally, for those folks that might be visiting on site, we do have extensive on-site database access. And I'm taking a screen capture here of some of the publicly available databases that we provide from our law library website. This is just a few. We have a lot of them that are more specialized in nature, energy law and natural resources law, those kinds of things. But these, I think, might be the most common databases for the folks that you might be working with or for you to come our way. Matt mentioned Westlaw. We have a version called Westlaw Campus Research, and that's probably our first best place for any user to come and maybe start off with what I'll call a Google on steroids for the law, right? We're talking about a lot of what makes this better than say Google is that that everything that is going to appear is law, it's current, and it's something that could be trusted. When we give trainings on how to research the law, we always make sure to guide folks to authoritative sources of law, perhaps government websites, rather than somebody's blog or a law firm's website. So Westlaw Campus Research is a place folks can come to, a database people can access from our library. I want to highlight some subject-specific databases that we might not always think of that the library pays for anybody that walks into the building. And the one I highlighted here is American Immigration Lawyers Association. So this is a specialized database. If you have somebody that's doing research on immigration law, they could walk into our library, we'd set them up at a public terminal and show them around the database. Like Matt said, we can't answer the question, is my can I do this, or is this legal? Those are questions we can never answer. But what we can do is say, okay, let's develop some keywords based on your situation. I could show you how to search this database, how to view the results. And then we send them on their way when it comes to applying the law and that sort of thing. So research, if somebody is interested and invested in learning about the law, we're here to help. There are certainly situations where folks are, language might be a barrier. They're not going to be able to research in Westlaw Campus Research or any of these specialized databases. They're going to need some more assistance, or maybe they don't have the time. And in that case, we have some capacity within the College of Law to refer to our legal assistance programs. Within the college, we have faculty members who supervise law students. These are usually second or third year law students who are getting ready to graduate. And we have some tailored programs for our students to gain training that are practicing under the license of the licensed attorney, right? So you're getting quality assistance here. And I've provided a website, or you can just Google College of Law, University of Wyoming College of Law, experiential learning. And these programs and practicums will appear. I want to tell you a little bit about some of these programs. When you consider referring folks to them, some of them do require income qualification, but some of them do not. My suggestion is usually to make the call, talk about what the situation is, and the students and the faculty can perhaps provide some initial guidance and then some lead to other situations if they cannot provide direct legal representation. So let's talk a little bit about these different programs. All of the contact information, by the way, is located on this website through the College of Law. These, I would call the clinics really the heart of our law school in terms of our service and our outreach to the state. They provide legal services all over the state of Wyoming. We've represented folks in different corners of the state. And I just want folks to recognize that UW and the University of Wyoming College of Law serve the state. We're not just some little entity serving those in Laramie. And I hope that sharing this with you today will make you more comfortable contacting or referring folks to these clinics. So the Civil Legal Services Clinic is, really much beloved by the College of Law. We had a gentleman by the name of John Berman who ran it for decades, and he is what we would call a lawyer's lawyer. It has continued on, and so if you have folks that are dealing with debt collection, housing issues, guardianship, emancipation, expungements, landlord-tenant, veteran disability, this was where you would want to go. And again, this one does income qualify, but it's worth a conversation at the beginning. The Family and Child Legal Advocacy Clinic. This is when you're dealing with child custody, divorce, domestic violence, adoption, and select immigration cases. And again, this one is, they're going to ask some questions at the beginning about income as well. The Defender Aid Clinic, this is dealing with a lot of post-conviction relief. So we're talking about a situation where perhaps somebody is in jail and they're disputing the sentencing or some other issues. We have folks here also do innocence work, that they're investigating and working on innocence claims made by Wyoming prisoners. They do occasionally do some local trial work for defense, but more often not, this is post-conviction work that clinic is doing. And that one is not income qualification, but it's usually a circumstance where you're working with somebody who's already in a jail setting. Our estate planning practicum, this is serving a lot of seniors And a lot of times there's funds already available for seniors so that senior citizens do not have to income qualify. Perhaps if it's a young working couple, that they might ask some questions, but that estate planning practicum for seniors might be free. And what those students are doing is creating wills or simple trusts and simple estates for folks that are making, those end of life decisions and starting to plan ahead. And then finally, our business law practicum. This one does not require any income qualification whatsoever. This is a group of law students and faculty who are helping generate new businesses. So if you're working with people like, I've got an idea for a new business I'd like to start in the state of Wyoming, we've got faculty and students ready to help with the legal ends of that, getting incorporated and having maybe a limited practice license within the state of Wyoming. So those are just a few of the kinds of things that the College of Law does to help serve the state of Wyoming. We have the law library that offers resources available to the public and some expertise in helping guide you through your research. And then we offer the College of Law practicums and clinics that provide direct legal service to the state. Angie's going to talk a whole lot more about other things available in the state. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and turn it over to Angie. I suppose I should pause for a moment. I saw that Sarah offered questions, and I would be happy to field any questions about our law library before turning it over. Thanks. Thanks for Sarah for the invitation to speak today.
Yeah, thanks so much for being here, Tanya. And if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat box, or you can hold them until later, and we will pass it over to Angie.
All right, and can everyone see my screen that I'm sharing?
We cannot.
Oh, let me try again.
There it is.
Can you see it now? Okay. Hi. No, well, thanks so much for inviting me to speak here today. My name is Angie Dorsch. I'm the Executive Director for Equal Justice Wyoming. So first, I'm going to talk a little bit about our program and some of the things that we do. We're a judicial branch program, so we're part of the Wyoming Judicial Branch. And one of the major things that we do is provide funding and support for the legal aid programs across the state. And I know a lot of times people may not be familiar with all of the different programs that are out there. They may be familiar with just Legal Aid of Wyoming, and that's all you think of. But we actually have quite a few different legal aid providers that we provide funding for, and that can provide services to individuals across the state. So we provide funding to the Wyoming Coalition Against Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault. So they specialize in helping victims who have been the victim of stalking, family violence, sexual assault, all kinds of issues surrounding that. And they do not just help with just the piece that's the protection order. They actually help with any related issues. Maybe there's a housing issue that someone who is the victim of domestic violence may need to get out of their lease and move so that they can be safe. So the coalition actually helps with a wide range of issues, but focuses that on the victims. Next is Legal Aid of Wyoming, which is a statewide program also, and they provide pretty general services, all kinds of civil legal services, including family law, housing, wills and trusts, just the whole gamut of different issues that you might think that people would encounter. We have the Wyoming Children's Law Center, which is a little bit of a specialized program that serves families that are dealing with issues involving children. That may be education related issues particularly. They do a lot of work with children who have disabilities that need special, special accommodations at school. They also do some work with disabled adults as well, but they do a wide range of issues dealing with children and family law issues. We have a program, the Teton County Access to Justice Center, which serves that northwestern corner of the state. They provide services in Teton County, Sublette, and Lincoln County, actually. And so they do, again, a wide range of services. They have a panel of attorneys that provides those services up there. We have a medical legal partnership, which is currently based out of Cheyenne, but we are looking to expand to other parts of the state. And this is a program that's really about addressing civil legal issues that are impacting people's health. So if potentially there's an unsafe condition like mold in a rental property that's not being addressed by the landlord and it's causing asthma attacks and a child to go to the emergency room repeatedly, those are the kinds of medical harming legal issues that those attorneys can help address. And then we also do provide funding and support to the University of Wyoming Law School clinical programs that Tanya was just talking about. In addition to that, we provide support and resources for self-represented litigants in Wyoming. So we're not able to, not every person is able to get the services of an attorney. And also some people are just looking for information. They want to know, what are my legal rights? What kinds of information is out there so that I can understand what I could possibly do? What are my options? And so we do provide that information and resources through our website. We do have other legal information and handouts and flyers that we provide. And then we do provide court forms so that people can actually address some of those legal issues. And some of those forms we'll talk about later are court forms through the judicial branch. And then some of those forms are through Equal Justice Wyoming that live on our website. We also manage and support a statewide volunteer lawyers program in coordination with the Wyoming State Bar. And this is where we do take applications for services. We also have legal clinics and other ways that people can find help from a volunteer lawyer. And then we do income qualify for that program. We serve low-income individuals that are under 200% of the federal poverty level. But then we do try to match them with services of a volunteer attorney through that program. And then we also do work with the court and bar initiatives, including the Access to Justice Commission, to try to break down overall barriers to access to justice. So in Wyoming, we have 27.7% of Wyoming's population lives below 200% of the federal poverty level, and so would qualify income-wise for free civil legal services. And this is really a large portion of our population that would not be able to afford legal services from private attorneys. And so this is where we have a justice gap. And the Legal Services Corporation is the federal funder for civil legal services. And they periodically do a justice gap study. And the last one was done in 2022. And what that found was that 92% of the legal needs that were reported by low-income Americans were not met with adequate legal help. So that's a pretty big number. And what we also know from this study is that a lot of people in that 92% of the needs, they didn't go seek help because they either didn't know where to go to get legal services, or they didn't think that help was available. So what we want to focus on is trying to make awareness around the different types of programs that people could get some form of assistance. In that study too, we know that 74% of low-income households experienced at least one legal problem in the past year when that study was done, with 39% of those households experiencing 5 or more civil legal problems. So that's a huge number of issues that are impacting the low-income households. And of this, these were not just little problems that had no impact. 55% of those people who had at least one legal problem reported that it affected them very much or severely. So these were things that significantly impacted them, losing housing, losing custody, not being able to get a protection order. So these are things these are important legal problems that people need assistance with. But what we do know is even with the assistance out there, the level of access to an attorney is very different for people who can afford an attorney versus people who are relying on the legal aid services. We have about 1 attorney in practice in Wyoming for every 330 Wyoming residents, whereas we only have about 1 legal aid attorney for about every 8,050 low-income Wyoming residents who would qualify for free legal services. So you can see that there's a very different availability of attorneys to assist low-income individuals. So what we know is we rely a lot on the civil legal aid programs to provide those services because those are attorneys on staff being paid to do that work. But they're only able to serve a fraction of the need, which is what we saw in those previous slides. And so this is where our volunteer pro bono attorneys are a very important part of our delivery of legal services to low-income individuals. But we also know that even if every attorney in the state took 1 case every year, we still wouldn't be able to meet the need. And this is why we have pro se litigants, which are self-represented litigants, people that are trying to make it through the court system without the help of an attorney. And for these individuals who don't have representation in the courts, access to reliable information, trusted legal resources, and limited scope representation is really important. As Tanya said, we want to get people to reliable information, not just Googling things, because we do see too many times that people come in after they've, paid money for something off the internet that actually doesn't work for what they're trying to do. It either isn't for Wyoming or it just doesn't work for what they're trying to do. So we really want to get people to those reliable and trusted legal resources and information, or limited scope representation, so they can at least get some help from an attorney, because we know that any amount of help is going to be better than no help. And so again, we would, in trying to bridge this gap, it's kind of a continuum of services. We would like to see everybody have full representation and have an attorney to help them from start to finish with their case. But knowing that that's not really realistic, what we want to do is move people from the very lowest levels on the left side of really no assistance to having some form of assistance to be able to understand how to address their legal needs. I mean, one of the things that is important is that, as we said, this rule is for the Wyoming Rules of Professional Conduct for Attorneys, and it allows representation to be limited as long as it's reasonable under the circumstances and client gives informed consent. And this is really important because it allows attorneys to be able to offer those limited pro bono assistance, even if they can't take on the full case. So some of the programs that we have in different areas of the state and things that we support through our volunteer lawyers program are walk-in legal clinics in various locations in the state. We have them regularly in Cheyenne with other clinics periodically in other locations. And this again is a form of limited scope representation. It helps clients assess their case and talk about their next steps, get legal advice, go through paperwork, help them understand any court documents that they may have. If they're trying to get a case started or they have self-represented litigant packets and they don't understand what they need to do, the attorneys can really walk through those and help them fill those out at those legal advice clinics. So that can be one form of help that can be beneficial. Now, one resource that we have that takes that, in-person, sit-down, one-on-one limited legal advice and puts it into the virtual sphere is our Wyoming Free Legal Answers website. And this is in partnership with the American Bar Association. They've built this out for many states across the country. And what Equal Justice Wyoming administers our site. And what the site does is ensure that only Wyoming licensed attorneys that are in good standing have access to answer questions. So when people post questions on this website, they can know they're getting an answer from an actual Wyoming attorney. So this tries to help barriers. There's a lot of barriers to accessing help that make this online model attractive. We have a lot of people in parts of the state that we don't have in-person events. So there's limited options for many rural areas. We also know that a lot of low-income individuals may have limited access to having transportation or childcare so that they can take off and go to an in-person event. But we also know that most people do have access to internet, whether that's in their home or at a public library. Most people have some way to get to an internet. Also, it can be difficult for low-income individuals to be able to take off work without having adverse consequences or not getting paid for that time. So how it works is the website itself, the client submits questions and creates an account. They have to go through and answer some questions. And if they qualify, then they're able to go ahead and ask questions and post them on the website. And it's not a live chat, so the questions get posted and then the attorneys who have been approved by Equal Justice Wyoming can go in and choose the questions and types of questions that they want to answer. And then they can provide advice anytime, anywhere that the attorney has an internet connection. And then once an attorney has answered that question, the client gets a notification email to log back in and see the response that's been provided. So this is a really helpful tool for people that are, again, in rural areas or maybe in areas that have less access to in-person events. This is a good place to be able to send those folks. And then we have a separate program we call the Volunteer Reference Attorney Program. And so it's a little bit different than our clinics, which are providing legal advice and also that limited scope representation, where there's that limited attorney-client relationship to be able to provide that assistance. With the volunteer reference attorney program, this is more navigational services. So these are attorneys that are licensed, but they're providing legal information and procedural assistance to self-represented litigants. So they're helping the attendees navigate Equal Justice Wyoming and court resources and forums and know where to go to get the assistance and information they need, providing referrals to other legal resources or legal aid providers if necessary. And again, providing assistance and information, but stopping short of from legal advice. And one thing that I would note, a lot of times people say, well, if it's information, is that not going to be as helpful as legal advice? But for a lot of the people that are trying to navigate the courts without an attorney, a lot of the issues that they come up with really are procedural. And so it's not necessarily advice, it's information and helping them understand, here's the rules, here's the court rules that you have to follow, here's the procedures you have to follow. Because a lot of times it's things such as, I don't know where the other party is to serve them. How can I move the case forward if I don't know where they are? How can I do alternate service? Or how do I bring this issue to the court's attention? I tried to call the judge and they said I can't talk to them. They don't understand that, they have to file a motion to bring something before the court. So a lot of the assistance that is needed for self-represented litigants really is this procedural navigational services and really understanding how the courts work and how to move their case through it. So this is a really good, helpful resource that people use frequently. And the program currently, we have it in 8 counties across the state. And we have it in Casper, Cheyenne, Laramie, Gillette, Green River, Jackson, Rawlins, and Sheridan. And in all of those locations, we have VRA sessions on the first Thursday of each month from 2 to 4 p.m. And then in 4 locations in Casper, Cheyenne, Jackson, and Sheridan, we have a second VRA session on the 3rd Thursday of each month from 2 to 4 p.m. And so we get this, again, this is a heavily used service. It's very helpful that you can refer people to if they're really needing assistance and I don't understand the next steps that I need to take or how to navigate this case that I'm trying to get through the courts. So this is the end of my presentation about our program. I did want to maybe take some time to show our website just for a few minutes so that people know how to navigate that. And if you have people that are looking for information or different resources, how to find that. But I did want to say, if you have any questions, you can email me. There's my email address. Or if you want to get brochures or flyers about resources that we have, we can send hard copies of those for you to display. We're probably going to be sending that out to everyone just anyway. But also, if you'd like to sign up for emails, say if you're in Natrona County and you want to get emails from us about Natrona County events that are going on, or Laramie County events or statewide events, you can email that ejw@courts.state.wy.us and just tell us that you'd like to be added to any of those groups, and we'll be sure to do that. So let me now see if I can exit out of this. Okay, and so one of the places that has a lot of information, not just legal information, but also information about other resources such as the legal aid providers that we talked about, and those events that are being held, you can find that information on our website. So here's our main page. We have information that's about our program, also information for our volunteer attorneys, but then a lot of our website is devoted to obviously the legal information for individuals who are looking for help. So a few of the things that we have, if you're trying to help people navigate to resources, is going to this legal help tab. And that's where you'll see that we have things organized into different, if you're looking for legal information about a certain topic, you can navigate here. Things like family law is one of our most widely used ones. So we have information about all the different, several different types of family law that people might be looking for information about: adoptions, divorce, guardianship, name changes. And so for each one of these, we have, common questions, resources, if there's forms for that specific topic, and then court information for the different courts. So you can kind of navigate through each one of those. And then next is find a lawyer. So if you're looking for information about programs or getting assistance from an attorney, this is where you can look and see the different programs that are available, including Legal Aid of Wyoming and the hotline that we support. But then the other legal aid providers that we mentioned earlier, like the Coalition Against Domestic Violence, the University of Wyoming Legal Clinics, Teton County, Wyoming Children's Law Center. And then we also have information about resources if someone's not low income and they don't qualify for that. From some different resources for that. We have the referral service that the Wyoming State Bar runs, and also the Modest Means program. So if someone's a little bit above income for our programs, but they're still not able to afford an attorney, the State Bar does have that Modest Means program, that attorneys on that accept a reduced fee if people qualify for that. So then we just have some other different resources that people might be helpful related to some of their legal issues. And then if you're, this is where the Free Legal Answers website links are. So one of them we have is to the state Wyoming Free Legal Answers website, which will take you to our Wyoming site, which oops, I'm logged into, so sorry about that. But then we have a separate one. There's also the federal Free Legal Answer site, which is a separate one that's maintained only by the ABA, but this one is specifically for if people have questions on things that are governed at the national level. So for veterans issues and for immigration issues, if people are having those types of legal questions, they can go and post those on this federal Free Legal Answer site. And then we also have the calendar of events. So if you're ever looking for, oh, I forgot when, the next volunteer reference attorney or clinic is, we just have the events listed here for all the different locations. Right now we have lots of VRAs that are listed there, but you can always check there. Again, we do send some email reminders if you'd like to be signed up for that, but our information is always on that calendar site. We do have some parts about legal, basics of legal research is another place. I know that Tanya and the law school has some great stuff too, but we have one piece there. And then limited scope representation. So if someone has questions about what that is and how it might be able to help them, they can learn more about that on our website as well. And then the very last thing, so we have right here at the bottom of this page is the inventory of civil legal services, and I've gone ahead and brought that up. So here's where if you're just looking kind of almost for a resource that you can search right here to find what really is out there on this website, here's where we have that. And we just broken it down in alphabetical order, but with all the different things under family law, you can see all those things broken out. You can see what handouts and resources are available for all of those things. And then separately, the legal forms. We have the court forms that I mentioned, and then the Equal Justice Wyoming forms. And then there are some other forms from other various trusted resources that we have there as well. And then if you're looking for those physical copies to hand out to people for where can I find legal help brochures, or if you want to be able to give out business cards that have the Wyoming Free Legal Answers website, you can again always request those from us. We're happy to restock those anytime that you'd like those. So those are just a list of the physical resources that we can send you. All right, so I am going to stop sharing my screen, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those now. All right, well, thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us this morning. I do want to also give special thanks to Justice Boomgarden for being on with us this morning and being part of what Angie had mentioned as the Access to Justice group that really has resulted in us working really cross-sectionally to be able to get some of this information out to you, and hopefully then that will be helpful to families and individuals that are coming and seeking assistance. But I want to pause there and see if there's any other questions or anybody else had anything that they wanted to share this morning before we jump off.
Are any of these services ever going to come to like Sweetwater County area? I mean, I know they're really focused in Cheyenne and Casper and Gillette, and didn't see a whole, and even Jackson, but not a whole lot down in this southwest corner of the state.
So we do have the volunteer reference attorney that is in Green River that does get quite a bit of use. So that is one area that you can refer folks to for legal assistance. again, that's probably our biggest one there right now. But we're always open to trying to have some events and outreach in any areas of the state. So we'd be happy to work with folks to try to put on some events and utilize local pro bono attorneys in that area as well. But again, we have a lot of the online resources or the free legal answers. We try to offer things that could be available across the state as well.
Across the state. Thank you so much. I'm glad there's one in Green River. That's exciting. So thank you.
All right, any other last questions?
This is Amy Zeke. I have a quick question just for folks, particularly in like community centers. How would you recommend potentially advertising some of these services for their clients, or hosting some of these gatherings where people maybe don't feel nervous about coming in and talking to people about legal aid? I think that's a huge question that maybe we're not asking quite yet.
Yeah, so I mean, we and could you repeat what types of centers you said that you're working
Like
with?
family resource centers, or just community centers in a lot of these spaces that act as dual roles for their community members.
Right, great question. Yeah, I think that we can look at what's the best way to partner with any particular group. A lot of it too, we do try to connect folks with, with virtual things as well. We have done outreach events over Teams and Zoom to senior centers in, say, Cody, even though the attorneys and students are in Laramie. So there's lots of ways we can try to provide those services or have in-person services in places where that makes sense as well. For Equal Justice Wyoming, a lot of it, we can do outreach and do a lot of education and connections. We do rely on, attorneys for doing the actual services, those volunteers. So it kind of just depends, I guess, on what each center is looking for with those outreach or events. But always happy to connect. You can always reach out to me directly or that generic account that we have, the EJW email account. You can always reach out to us if there's something in particular that you're looking for.
Tracy, I see your hand is up.
Hi everyone. I just want to introduce myself. I work with Tanya at the UW Law Library, and I just want to make everyone aware that Matt and I in particular, and some of the folks at Equal Justice who work with Angie, are trying to strengthen our relationship in the legal resources in your local public libraries. And so if you happen to, in your daily lives, sort of interact with your local library and are curious about the legal resources they have there, and maybe see a need in the community that's maybe not being met, or anything else you want to make us aware of, Matt and I are kind of working on this directly, and we're meeting with the WLA, the Library Association Board, this afternoon. And so I'm going to drop my email in the chat, and you can reach out at any time if you have ideas, comments, or questions on that.
Thanks, Tracy. A lot of exciting collaborations are happening. One of the things that Tanya and I have met recently with the Department of Health on is doing some of those outreach efforts to senior centers across the state. And so we know that going in person may be best for those populations. And so making sure that we coordinate with the communities in those areas will be really important as we are spreading more of this information. Great questions, great comments. Anything else that comes to mind this morning? All right, well, I really want to thank Matt and Tanya and Angie for being here this morning and sharing all of this information, and for everybody spending your time with us here today. We'll post this on our YouTube channel. We'll also send out an email copy to everybody who was on the invite, and we will make sure that you have all of the emails and links to all of the different places. But thanks so much for being here. And for making sure that we're getting good information out to people who need it most. So have a wonderful rest of your day and week, everybody.